Welcome to Saturday's Warrior, the channel where we talk all things BYU and Big 12. And today we have the Alamo Bowl preview set up for you, an all Big 12 bowl game between BYU and the Colorado Buffaloes. And with us to preview the Buffs is DavidTalksBuffs. So, David, welcome and thank you for joining me.
Trevor, thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I know it's been a little while since we've been able to connect. I didn't think we were going to be playing each other this year, but I'm looking forward to this matchup, man. I think it's going to be great. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, so you mentioned the matchup. Yeah, we didn't expect to play until next year, and this, even though BYU and Colorado didn't play this year, we're in conference, but we didn't play this year. In fact, we haven't played for, I don't know, is it the 90s or the 80s? It's been quite a while.
Long time, I can't tell you.
So it's been a minute. So it doesn't really feel like a conference game, but it is a conference game. And in fact, it's kind of a de facto third place game for the Big 12 because both of us kind of runners up there to get in, with the way the tiebreaker went, missed out on the conference championship game. So, so what are your thoughts on this all Big 12 bowl game?
Well, it's one that I've actually wanted to see happen. I feel like the fan base was a little split, once the conference title was out of play, all of that fun stuff with the college football playoff. Some people wanted to see us in the Holiday Bowl going up against, I guess it would be Syracuse. I did not care for that. I said, let's have this matchup against BYU because throughout the second half of the season, we needed some help. We needed some buff luck to get ourselves in position for the conference championship. We blew it on my birthday against Kansas. But that whole time we were just like, oh, man, if only we had BYU on the schedule. If only we could play BYU. Let's see how we stack up against first place BYU. I mean, you guys were in first place for most of the season. So I love how you put it. It's kind of like a third place matchup. So to speak. And with the conference being so large and obviously the Big 12 is so different since the last time CU was in it, I really like this from a standpoint of developing history with some of our new conference rivals. And yeah, hopefully can develop a little bit of a rivalry here moving forward. I mean, one of the things that sucked in the Pac-12 is that we were so bad that we couldn't really develop like legit rivalries with anyone because we just kind of sucked, like outside of maybe our games against Arizona State in Arizona. So the fact that we have an opportunity to go up against a conference opponent in a bowl game, I like it. I like it.
Yeah, I had mixed feelings at first because it looked like it was either going to be this game or going up against like Miami in the Pop-Tart Bowl. When Pop-Tarts and aside, that would have been fun going up against the ACC, another team that felt like they should have been in the, that they wanted to be in the playoff and go head to head with them. So, but Colorado, I would argue, is obviously a bigger matchup. I mean, with the prime effect, you got the Heisman winner, you have just all that Colorado is, and both teams in the Big 12 struggled quite a bit last year, came in this year. There was a lot of hype around Colorado last year. They underperformed, and a lot of people were saying, okay, I'll believe it when I see it this year. And then Colorado, stumbled early, but then went on quite a tear. And then BYU also outperformed expectations. So they're on kind of both fell flat there near the end. Kansas doing a world of hurt on both teams.
What was up with that, man? They were like elite for like 3-4 weeks and then, back to usual.
Well, we knew it all year. Like this was a team with a lot of talent, and I don't know how they were able to put it all together just then. What stinks is not only did they ruin a lot of Big 12 teams' rankings. We all dropped in the rankings because all of our ranked teams played Kansas, but then they didn't even make a bowl game to at least give the Big 12 an extra bowl game. And that's my one issue with this game. But we knew this was going to happen before the season because of previous bowl tie-ins. This was going to be an all Big 12 game, and so there's really no way around that. So that's that is kind of a bummer for the conference, because that gives us fewer chances to go up against other conferences to prove what we have, especially when it's two of our top teams that are playing each other. Like, does anyone have a ton of confidence in Iowa State going in against Miami? Like, so it would have been better, like, if our top teams not in the playoff would have been, in some of these other top matchups. So that's where I'm disappointed. But in terms of spectacle, BYU is going to show up. We travel well. Colorado has fans everywhere, and like we said, the prime effect. So I think this is going to be a huge game, very widely televised and viewed. And so there's a lot of good that can come from this. I think this game will get a lot of hype outside of the playoff. It's one of the top bowl games outside of the playoff, those top maybe 5 or so games. So in that regard, I'm really excited about it. Taking a step back, because I'm filibustering here a little. So we talked about both teams slipping up a little bit, but tell me, they're near late in the season. Tell me a little bit about Colorado, how this team is made up, and what, like, when things were clicking, when Colorado was winning, like, what was going right, and when things went wrong, what did we see? Like, what happened against Kansas? And
Yeah. Wonderful question. So I think at the end of the day, we are kind of your throwback Big 12 air raid offense, but that's not to say we don't run the ball. I think it's, you hear that all the time, especially now with the transfer portal open. What running back would want to come here when you guys don't run the ball? Why would you ever want to run the ball? Well, that's not exactly true. Usually in our wins as we got into conference play, usually we would have a correlation of getting a win and having at least 20 carries for our running backs throughout the game. So, we're still going to air it out. We have Shedeur Sanders, who very well could be the top pick of the draft. Travis Hunter won't go too far after him, I'm sure. So, yeah, this is going to be, it's like the family finale, all that. So we are going to throw around the ball. Like, I'm definitely expecting to do that. But yeah, in order to have success, in order for Travis Hunter to put up, what was it, the 1,200 yards that he's had this year, the 14 TDs, we've needed to have at least some amount of balance on offense. Now, this is not the most balanced offense out there. We're still going to throw the ball around, but keep an eye out for Isaiah Gustive, number 23. He's our starting running back right now. He's averaging 4.5 yards a carry, so I think he's a good running back. We don't really have anybody right now, kind of like Dylan Edwards, who we had last year, that, hey, if you just get him the ball in open space, he can just take it to the house. We don't really have that type of running back right now, but we got some guys that can break a few tackles. They got some deceptive speed. You'll probably see Michael Welsh as well. I think he's what number is he right now? I'm blanking on the number. 29. Yeah. So keep an eye out for those guys. But really, the offense runs through our wide receivers: Travis Hunter, LeJonte Western, the slot, number 10, Will Shepard, number 14 on the outside, and Jimmy Horn's finally going to be healthy, number 5, our big speedster. He has been missing most of the season, in the second half of the season, due to an ankle injury. I think he'll be back for this game. We'll have to see. Outside of that, like, our offensive line has done a much better job this year of protecting Shedeur. Now, Shedeur is going to hold on to the ball to make those big plays. That's why you've still seen us give up, I think, around 35 sacks this year. I still wouldn't put all that on the offensive line. I know the narrative is out there that we can't block or whatever, but I think Jordan Seaton had a fantastic year. I think maybe he gave up 2-3 sacks on the season, which I think is really darn good for a true freshman. And it's a fun product. So this is probably for another episode. I think the offense is going to look a lot different next year with having a new quarterback and whatnot. But ultimately, this is going to be a defense that uses the run to set up the pass.
Okay. The run to set up the pass. I mean, that's something that BYU loves to do. So,
Yeah.
and you already mentioned it, some of the other key players. That was
Yeah.
what I want to know. Some of the players outside of, obviously, Shedeur Sanders and
Yeah.
Travis Hunter. But let's talk about
Yeah.
them for a second. So,
Mhm.
because so much does seem to rest on them,
Mhm.
especially when it comes to airing it out. Because I mean, that's the thing about Colorado is it seems like, and maybe I'm wrong. It seems like maybe they, you have the potential to slow them down, but they have at any moment the ability to get all that and more back with just like that. I mean, we saw it twice
Mhm.
against Baylor, pulling out these big time plays. And so there's
Mhm.
definitely those big chunk plays. So what makes those two guys so special? So just kind of talk to me
Yeah.
about them and the driving force behind this team.
Yeah. Well, it would be rude of me not to start with Pat Shermer coming in here. I know Prime got a lot of flack for letting go of I can't even remember his name now. Sean Lewis, head coach of San Diego State now. Just wasn't the right fit for the type of offense that I think that we were wanting to run. And so we've seen a lot more success in the passing attack with Pat Shermer at the helm. And I think like when you kind of look at an NFL type of offense with the different types of receivers, that's kind of what we have. We have a little bit of everything. So obviously Travis Hunter is your number one wide receiver. He can do everything, but he's kind of going to function as one of those outside guys. Will Shepherd, um, number 14, it's like 6'2", 6'3". He's that traditional like X wide receiver that you'll see in the NFL. You got some speedy slot guys in LeJontay Wester, who's kind of more of like a quickness type of guy. As a Broncos fan, Emmanuel Sanders, he kind of reminds me of him a little bit. Just really good route running, can really get open over the middle of the field. And then Jimmy Horn, he can run those slot routes, those slants, but also can take it over the top and burn you deep. We also have Draylon Miller, number 6. You'll see him used as, yeah, kind of like a flanker in the slot. You can kind of do all sorts of things with him. I think you'll see him have a much more expanded role this next year, but he's somebody that can play the slot. You can line him up at running back as well. So a lot of versatility there. So this is an offense that is saying, okay, like you want to put extra attention towards, shutting down our larger wide receivers, Travis Hunter or Will Shepherd. Hey, we're going to get Draylon and Jimmy and LeJontay the ball in space. I think that one thing that Pat Shermer has really helped with is just utilizing these guys' skill sets a little bit more to where um, we're truly attacking all parts of the field. Like Shedeur's got the arm to make all the throws you need in college football, and sometimes I felt like the route tree compared to last year. When you look at last year, it was a little too basic for what we had and what we could be running. And I think that you've seen expansion on that this year with us continuing to bring in really good wide receivers. Every guy that I've mentioned, aside from Draylon Miller in the receiving game, they're going to be gone. They're seniors, aside from Travis Hunter, who obviously will declare. But it wouldn't surprise me to see, hey, a scenario in which all those guys get drafted maybe on day 3. I don't know if that will happen. Maybe another guy will get drafted there on day 3, but you'll see all these guys at the very least signed in NFL camps this summer. They're all NFL caliber players, and so yeah, that's what makes this offense really difficult to defend. I think when we have those spots on offense where we like sometimes, man, we just lose all momentum, and I think it's because sometimes we can get so, in my mind, like so distracted or like locked in on, oh yeah, we're just gonna be thrown into this guy, or we're gonna hit the passing attack, that we forget to have balance. It's like the shiny new toy syndrome. We got so many wide receivers, we can forget to sometimes just get the chunk yardage on the ground and make the defense have to defend both the run and the pass. Because when defenses have been able to get after us and have success, it's when their edge rushers, man, are really able to pin their ears back and just go after the passer, because they're not at all moved by the threat to run the football.
Mm. Okay. That's an interesting tidbit. So,
Yeah.
um, So you think it's, I mean, has Colorado been susceptible to like blitzes more than not, or is it just a matter of just kind of becoming predictable?
Yeah, it's more predictability. Like what I was saying a few minutes prior, if you go back and look at a lot of our wins this year, our running backs are getting 20 to 30 carries. There have been some wins, believe this or not, where we've had a 50-50 run to pass ratio. There's actually, I think, 2 victories on this year where we've had more runs than pass. And some of those came within conference. So, and Shedeur was still putting up a ton of numbers, but I don't suggest blitzing this offense. Shedeur's had incredible success against the blitz this year. I think the defenses that have had success on our offense, they've been able to get pressure mainly with 4, and then they've done that with stunts. Stunts have been something that has been able to kind of disrupt offensive line. We have a lot of moving parts. I think our starting right tackle might be out for this game. We haven't had him for a couple of games, and that could really affect BYU's ability to get pressure in a way that would benefit y'all, is by running stunts. Again, not having a threat of the run game, which again, I think it's going to be disciplined or it's going to be tough for us to be disciplined, making sure we run enough to help open up the pass, because this is the last, it's the closing of an era right now with Coach Prime and his kids. This is their last game, Travis Hunter's last game. And it's got to be a fun show, man. Like Travis Hunter's 8 receptions away from 100. Shedeur, I don't know if this matters at all. I think he's like at least a few touchdowns away from 40 on the year passing. So I think we're going to air this thing out, but I thought we were going to air it out the whole time against Oklahoma State. But I think that first touchdown or 2 was from the backfield. So what do I know? But yeah, I feel like when we don't run the ball, that just allows BYU, I'm sure, has a great defensive coordinator. You guys can draw up some creative rushes. But yeah, if you guys are ever bringing 6, y'all better get there really quickly. Nebraska had a lot of success bringing 4. Kansas State had a lot of success bringing 4 and 5. Kansas, for that matter, I think they really had a lot of success, honestly, with just rushing 4. So that's really going to be the key, having 7 guys back there in coverage with what will be thrown out there from the receiving core.
Interesting. So, since we're talking offense, as we transition to defense, give me a quick pitch. Of course, he's already won it, but why Travis Hunter deserved to be the Heisman. Obviously, there's a lot of back and forth online, mostly between him and Agenti. I think was the next top guy in line. So tell me what makes Travis Hunter so special and why he was deserving of the Heisman.
Yeah, Trevor, it's really unique because I've never seen, obviously I've watched every game Travis Hunter has played in a Buffs uniform. But I've never seen a player impact like the game on both offense and defense so drastically from a boundary position on both sides of the field. Like he completely changes how we play defense and he completely changes how we play offense. People might forget Travis Hunter, he missed 2 halves of football this year. One was against Arizona. We sat him because we just had such a big lead. But against Kansas State, he was out for 2.5 quarters with a shoulder. Ended up playing the next week. But I think you saw like how it became difficult for us to have momentum throughout that game on offense. It was like we were fighting for every yard, it felt like, on certain drives. And so again, I think, some of the stuff's kind of funny, like the, Puddles the Duck saying, snaps ain't a stat. I know it's not a stat, but I think when you look at NFL draft experts, scouts, all this stuff saying he's the number 1 or at worst the number 2 wide receiver class in the class, and no doubt the number one corner in this year's NFL draft class. I think it just, goes to show that he's playing at a very high level against or on both sides of the ball. I think that, yeah, uh, I guess maybe he's like top 10, I think, in like PFF grade in both, but you could say he's not number one in both or whatever. At the end of the day, he's just fantastic, man. And I don't think we'll ever see anything like that again. I think I've heard the argument, well, Travis Hunter just had to play both sides on Colorado because they were that bad. Well, I don't know about that one. I felt coming into the year that we could take away some of his snaps at wide receiver because I wanted to make sure that he could stay healthy. And I thought that we've had the depth to do it. But you've seen that he's been able to play essentially full time on both sides of the ball, stay healthy, and just he was fantastic this year. Again, completely changes the way we play offense and defense. And if you had a quarterback throwing for 5,000 yards like Caleb Williams did a couple years ago, maybe so. I think if Genty would have broken Barry Sanders' record in the same amount of games, I think you could have definitely seen him get the votes for the Heisman. But at the end of the day, Travis Hunter did it on both sides of the ball, highly regarded as the best corner, if not the best wide receiver as well in this year's draft class. And he did it at the Power 4 level. So, again, Ashton Genty was phenomenal. I just think that sometimes it's just tough to win those types of awards when you are playing G5 football. I think that can just be the tough thing, even though you can compare their strength of schedule and whatnot to other schools around in the Power 4. Maybe bring Boise State into the Big 12, and maybe the next running back will have success then. I'm all for it.
Hey, I was in favor of Boise State over some of the other teams they brought in with us, but because BYU had a good rivalry going with them. But no. So quickly, what's the latest on how they think he's going to play in the NFL? Like, they're not going to have him play both sides of the ball, are they?
Right now, it really does. In my opinion, I think he's going to get the option to do that. I think he's going to get the opportunity, but I think how it will most likely work out is him being a full-time corner with him having a package of plays in snaps every game at wide receiver. I think that's probably the easiest path towards seeing him have success. I just think, again, we found ourselves in this situation too. I mean, we're a much better team than we were last year and especially 2 years ago. But again, these coaches, especially in the NFL, I mean, Prime, he's got, CU would never fire Prime, even if we had a losing season again this year. That's just not how we are, like as a university program. But in the NFL, you're essentially on the hot seat from year to year. And I think it's going to be really hard for coaches to tell themselves, hey, for a series or for a quarter, I need to take my best wide receiver off the field, or I need to take my best corner off the field. I just think that that's a really hard thing to do when he's also saying, I'm good to go. I think that it's going to carry, or it's going to need a lot of restraint, I think, on a coach to make sure that, or to ensure that doesn't happen. I am worried about his health just because he is a little bit more of a slender guy to take like an NFL type of physical like beating, so to speak, every Sunday on the football field, with those hits and all that. But I guess the NFL does play at a little bit slower of a pace. Maybe he's not playing as many snaps, but I think it's going to be a temptation that's going to be hard for coaches to say no from, as long as he's healthy.
And that was one thing that impressed me this year, is because last year, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I seem to remember that he was kind of fading near the end, or there was something that, and maybe it was just the talk, maybe they, but that did he have injury or something near the end? And
it was kind of a freak injury that I felt like kind of plagued him. week 3, the lacerated liver on that cheap shot from Henry Blackburn. I
Like,
thought it was a cheap shot. Maybe
yeah.
you could say it was just a little late after the whistle, but bang, bang play. Um, and he was playing, I think, 3 weeks or 4 weeks later. I still think that injury had a had a big effect on him, I would imagine. And you saw, I mean, it during the game against Stanford, you saw, I mean, I think he played like 160 snaps that game. And then Io Manor is just up there mossing him, at the end. I was at that game. That sucked. But yeah, like that was kind of like a freak injury. And I think he might have had something else later in the year. I can't speak to that definitively. So y'all let me know in the comments if you
Yeah.
remember anything. But yeah, like to me, with him coming in this year, it was really important I think for his NFL draft stock for him to prove that he can stay healthy while doing this. And again, he missed 2.5 quarters from a little bit of a shoulder, and he was playing next week and played out the rest of the season, no problem.
So tell me now, let's go to the other side of the
Yeah.
ball. We talked a bit about him on defense as a corner. He's been locked down, but tell me about the rest of the defense and some of the other guys that we should be watching out for, and what is kind of the identity of this Colorado defense?
Yeah. So you'll see pretty much all of our guys there. We had one guy enter the portal that was a starter for us right now, and that was linebacker Nikhai Hill-Green. He's off to Alabama, and he was great. I think he was second team all conference this year. Had a fantastic season for us, transferring in from Charlotte. But this is a defense that it's very veteran, like our 2 interior defensive line players, 97 Chidozie Nwankwo and 99 Shane Cokes. They're both seniors, so this is going to be their last game. I think our edge group is probably our deepest position right now. So you'll see probably Samuel Okunloa, number 93, Arden Walker, number 53, as well as number 40, Tajay McCoy involved. And then, how could I forget BJ Green? It's in there. Why am I forgetting his name or his number right now? But BJ Green, I think he was an honorable all conference mention this year. He's been fantastic against us, with us, but all those guys can play the run and rush the passer. I think we finished with the most sacks in the Big 12 this year. If not, we were in the lead of that until like the last year or last week of the season. So yeah, like we're a defense that gets after the passer. We'll blitz our inside linebackers. So you'll see Levante Bentley transfer from Clemson play at inside. Probably Jeremiah Brown, who followed Prime over from Jackson State, might get the start at inside linebacker as well with Nikhai Hill-Green out of there. But we bring pressure. That's what we've done a lot, and we play a lot of man coverage. Sometimes that's for the better. Sometimes, man, it can really bite you in the butt. You might remember us running cover 0 man coverage there the last drive of the game against Kansas State, where Avery Johnson, man, somehow turned into Tom Brady. Man, he made an incredible couple throws down the sideline in that drive to give them the victory and the lead. And yeah, we got guys, they're all 6 foot and above for the most part. And that's just the style that we play, is a lot of man coverage. Sometimes we won't give safety help over the top because we'll bring Shiloh 21, down into the box to help against the run. So we will prioritize stopping the run and take our chances in man coverage. And yeah, it's definitely paid off this year, more so than last year, playing a lot of man. But yeah, it's still something that Jake Retzlaff, if he's able to escape pressure, get out and scramble, or Retzlaff, sorry. Yeah, he definitely can take advantage of it if we're not able to get home quickly. Oh, you're muted here really quick, Trevor. Sorry, man.
Sorry. No, I was just saying it's all right. Yeah. Half the BYU fans and just about all the commentators still say Retzlaff. So,
Okay.
yeah, but Yeah. So with and now I forgot what I was gonna say, but
Yeah,
I did want to ask about in terms of Travis Hunter, are
yeah.
teams throwing away from him? Like if he's on a certain side, are they going the other way?
Yeah, yeah, he hasn't faced, many targets right now, and I think he's got, like, 3 or 4 interceptions, but yeah, like, for the most part, they have avoided throwing at him. There have been some quarterbacks that have tried to this year, like the Oklahoma State quarterbacks took some shots, and he had like 2 or 3 dropped interceptions in that. I'll pull it up right now on PFF so I can get you those numbers.
Sure.
But he's somebody to where I think that he's taken a substantial leap this year from he was still a very good corner last year for us, but I felt like he has just taken another jump this year in his coverage skills. He's been fantastic. So yeah, let me take a look here in coverage. Yeah, he's seen 38 targets on the season, so not too many. 58% reception percentage when targeted, giving up 1 touchdown, 4 interceptions, and 7 PBUs. So NFL passer rating of 42% when targeted. So this would be somebody that I would suggest that Retzlaff does not test. Take your shot with Preston Hodge or Colton Hood or DJ McKinney. All of those guys I feel like are really, really good. But again, this is no shot towards them. There is only one Travis Hunter in our secondary, and it is him.
So does he play? Do they mix up the defense to put him on the best receiver of the opponent, or does he kind of have his spot?
Yeah, he'll mainly be a boundary corner. So uh, very rarely will he like follow somebody into the slot. That's only if they're like if it's very very needed. So I think like here I'm just looking at his slot snaps as well. Like I think so for instance, he took 558 slots at bound or snaps at boundary corner. He took 80 in the slot. The most by far was against Texas Tech. He had 27. Um, wonder if that I can't speak to why that was. I thought the highest would be Arizona, but it wasn't at all. So yeah, he's going to stay more so on the outside. Preston Hodge, number 24. He's a transfer from Liberty. I think he should be back this next year with the JUCO ruling. We brought him in to play slot like 95% of the time, which is like what he's done. So there could be like we're not normally somebody or a defense that has guys run with guys before the snap, like have Travis Hunter just tracking on a dude. So offensively, I mean, if you guys are wanting to get a specific matchup, you guys will probably be able to do that with pre-snap motion. But yeah, again, that's just kind of the style. Like it's a simplified defense that we play. Like it's not super complex. Kind of feel like last year we were trying to run some complex stuff. Not a ton of zone, and really, hey, we'll go man to man with you. We're not really kind of our mentality is like we're not intimidated on kind of who you're trying to line up against who. It's everybody's responsibility to cover, and it's served us well for the majority of the year.
Awesome. I mean, not awesome for BYU, right? But interesting. So, okay, now how about special teams? Is there anything of note there?
Oh man, Trevor, we can't kick touchbacks, man. We can't. So you guys are gonna get returns. It has been driving me crazy, and it finally, um, I think it finally drove Prime crazy, Coach Prime, because we brought in some kickers this year in the portal that should be able to boot it quite a bit at altitude. But yeah, we were barely getting touchbacks with um, half of our games at 5,400 feet above sea level, man. It's crazy. So you guys are going to get returns. Our return coverage on kickoffs has been hit or miss. Um, Yeah, there's just been some games in which we've just been absolutely gashed to where then we just start squibbing it. And it's like, fine, we'll give you the ball at the 30, 35, just as long as you're not taking it back to like the 50. That is an area where you guys could definitely exploit. Punt coverage has been much better this year. Mark Vassett, our senior punter, has had a good year. Mata is our place kicker. He is he doesn't really have the leg, which is why he doesn't do kickoffs right now, but he can boot it just fine from like 45 yards in. So usually, like, if we're just across midfield and it's like 4th down and 5, whatever, like, we'll go for it. Heck, we've even gone for it on the opposing 30-yard line on like 4th and 10 before, instead of kicking a field goal. So we stay aggressive on offense, like in the field goal range. I think that's something that we'll see get a little bit better next year, just with our just having like a committee of kickers. But right now, special teams, if you guys got a really good returner, that could make a difference in this game. No doubt about it. Definitely in a couple of our losses, Kansas State, Kansas, our special teams burned us big time, man.
Yeah, we've had Keelan Marion run it back this year, which was our first time in a very long time. So, our special teams have done really well. I think it's been one of our strengths this year. So, maybe that's something BYU can take advantage of in this matchup. So, with this bowl game not being in the playoff, as we mentioned, it is one of the bigger non-playoff games that we have in this postseason, but it's still a game that's ultimately kind of meaningless. I look at it kind of like they are college students. So I'll draw back to our college experience. You have a professor that says, your grades are locked in. I don't know if you ever had a class like this. I had this a couple times. Your grades are locked in. There is a final. You can take it. If it hurts your grade, we won't count it. If you do well, it can help your grade. So prep for it. So now you got to go in there. And, I always took those, but it was hard to study with the same rigor that you may have, mid-semester on like a midterm or something. So these guys have really got to kind of dig deep to stay motivated, especially this long after the last game of the regular season, to continue to practice, stay motivated, and come out and play for a game like this. Now, I'm kind of shocked and impressed at the same time that Colorado's guys, they're guys that are, draft prospects and everything, big names, that they're all going to play in this game. Now, I also heard that there was a big insurance policy taken out, which makes sense. But So what's motivating this team? What's the mindset behind this? Why are these guys playing? And how is this team going to, stay focused and come out and perform like we've seen them all season?
Yeah. So I'm really happy you're bringing this up, Trevor, because it's something that, like, I have just been saying since Coach Prime has gotten here. Like, people always try and rain on my parade or dunk on me, saying whatever they're doing, it's not going to matter because you're not going to get a bowl game win. And we haven't won a bowl game, Trevor, since 2004. Joel Klatt was our quarterback. So it's been 20 years since we've won a bowl game. But also, like, yes, there's a huge show involved with CU. It's Hollywood. It's Showtime, baby.
Yeah.
Like the Coach Prime. There's the Coach Prime persona, and then there's like behind closed doors, Coach Prime. And he's old. He's an old school dude, man. Like really, the expectation is that, hey, if you're healthy, you're gonna play. You play to win the game, in the words of Herm Edwards, right? So. I really love the fact that he's bringing back, I think, a lot of that accountability. I think NIL helps because I'm sure certain paychecks aren't hitting until the season is completed. It does help when you're being compensated now. A lot of players are to play in the bowl game, which is great. But this is something that this bowl game means so much when you look at the team. Of course, you got the family aspect of things, but you have a lot of guys that are going to be on NFL scouts radars this spring that want to make sure that they're putting as much tape out there as they can. But also, like, it has just been substantially, like, beat beaten down, like in the media with, it's talked about on the well off videos that Deion Sanders Jr. puts out of just getting to the bowl game and getting that bowl victory has been something that's been talked about the 2 years he's been here. It's not something that's been taken for granted. It's not something that has been looked at as like a glorified preseason game or anything like that. You've probably seen her around, Peggy, our 100-year-old super fan. She and her family just flew private out here to San Antonio for the game. We've made a promise to her to get another bowl victory for her. It's been 20 years since she's been able to see one, and now her twin sister has passed a few years ago. So it's really important for us to get this win for Peggy, for the program, and also when you look at Coach Prime's bowl record right now, it's 0-2. When you look at it back at Jackson State with the Celebration Bowls, 0-2. It's time for him to get his first bowl victory as well. So, the vibes are they're just great right now. I think everybody's locked in and taking this seriously. And I think that's what we want to see back with college football, because last 10 years, whatnot, man, it's been tough watching a lot of these bowl games, and it's nice to see. I just feel like, Trevor, we've seen a lot less opt-outs, and again, we had one starter enter the portal. I'm sure we're going to have a handful of guys enter the portal after the bowl game, whichever team deals with now, but I love to see this team staying together and finishing what they started, and so yeah, like Coach Prime, man, like he does run a tight ship. There hasn't been one arrest since he's taken over, which a lot of previous coaches cannot also say the same thing at CU, as well as the 2 years in the history of Colorado football with the highest GPAs are this year and last year. So he's really running a tight ship. It's disciplined. And I think now that he's been able, this is kind of a tangent, but now he's kind of been able to find the guys in the, out there in college football, in high school recruiting, in the transfer portal, that thrive in the type of environment that he's creating. Just like Jim Harbaugh, for instance, there are going to be guys that are wired towards what he was doing at Michigan. Personally, I don't think I would thrive in a Jim Harbaugh environment, but clearly guys like JJ McCarthy and all those defensive players did. That is kind of what's going on here. Not everybody is gonna want to be here, but the guys that like click with it, I think they get it. And now you're starting to see you're getting more of a mix of those guys rather than having to go get 80 guys in the portal and hoping that they're all aligned in the vision and the goals and stuff like that.
No, you said this was a tangent, but this is exactly where I wanted to go next. Is I wanted to ask you about that on the persona, because Colorado has become kind of what like the Lakers or the Yankees are, and not in terms of necessarily on field yet. It's still early in Prime's tenure there, but in terms of the way they're viewed, people either are on the bandwagon or they hate CU. They love to watch Colorado because they want to see them lose. So tell me, like, as a Colorado fan, like you were a Colorado fan prior to Prime, so you didn't come on with the bandwagon. Obviously, you love it, but what is the Colorado fans' perspective on that?
Honestly, Trevor, we're 2 years into this thing, and it still feels like a dream. Like every day, it's crazy. Now, sometimes it can be a little stressful, but the fact that like people care about Colorado football, whether you love it or hate it, is just insane. Like it's insane to me that, we don't win every recruiting battle or whatnot, but the fact that we win some of these, it's insane to me. The fact that we got Julian Lewis coming out here, man, it's insane. With what we've been able to do. And again, like BYU fans, not just you, Trevor, but if you guys ever get the time, go watch the Gospel of Mac. About earlier in the 80s, and Coach Mack and the Buffs bringing us a national title and everything involved with that, because Coach Mack and Coach Prime, like, they're very different, obviously, but they were both like very charismatic personalities that people were either like really gravitating towards and like were all about, or it just like was not their style. And since Coach Mack, since the late 80s, mid 90s, we haven't had a coach like that come to Boulder. But when he first came out here, I just knew it was going to be the perfect fit, um, because it the mentality from the program wasn't going to be, what do we need to tolerate with Coach Prime here to be successful? It wasn't that, like what you see with so many of these blue blood programs sometimes with guys that they hire. It was more so, what do we need to do to empower Coach Prime to be successful here? And hey, he's got the keys to the car, man. He really does. But we've allowed him to be to do things with like his style, but it's also because like it's grounded in really good, solid principles, taking your grades seriously, not playing guys who aren't doing well in the classroom, discipline. It is a very pro-like atmosphere, Trevor, here, and I think like that's why maybe some people were offended when he first came in here. Wanting to create that viral moment, baby. I'm coming in here. You better hit that portal because I'm coming in here and I'm bringing my luggage, and it's Louis. Yeah, as a Colorado fan, as a Colorado graduate, those things needed to be said, man. Like, those dudes did not. How do I say this in a nice way? Let me rephrase. A lot of the times, like on these teams previously, Colorado was their only Power 5 offer. And he came in here and raised the standard that had just dropped so much over the last 20 years. But it's a pro style atmosphere, really. They've said this in the documentaries. You can see it. Like, it's very much like the NFL saying, hey, you better put out good tape because it is my job. These recruiting staff members will talk, and these coaches, it is my job to recruit over you and find somebody to do this job better than you. It's a high pressure environment. The cameras are on you. Some players are going to falter in the spotlight and the pressure. Others are going to be made diamonds. And I just think that's what we're starting to see now 2 years in. And the jump from 4-8, I predicted 8-4, so we exceeded my expectation, which was awesome, going 9-3. And again, we're always in the headlines. Sometimes it's being taken out of context. Sometimes there's guys writing articles about us having guns in the locker room because we're talking about who's the most strapped. It just goes to show that some people don't understand. Again, if you watch the documentaries on YouTube every day, you would understand this. Strap means who's the best lockdown corner. It's these types of things that we're talking about that it can easily be mischaracterized because people want this program to kind of fit the villain type of character that college football needs. And I think they lean into that and welcome it. And those are the types of guys that we bring in, are guys that are okay being misunderstood, being in the spotlight, being ridiculed. But I think you've been able to see this year that our team has really risen to the occasion after going through some early adversity, especially after Nebraska week 2. I mean, that was just a huge turning point for us, I think, mentally as a team. And again, man, like, if you take time to dive in, again, there's a lot of footage on YouTube every day. Videos are coming out. You can really get to know a lot of the players, and maybe not be all about being on TV and all those things. I understand, but the principles and the values, I think, I think most college football fans would be thrilled to have those things instilled in their program, just like a handful of other coaches are doing it. It's just with a different style.
Yeah. Interesting. Cool it's good to hear your take,
Yeah.
and I think that was a pretty measured take on it, and fair. I have to say, I did put out a video earlier this season comparing Coach Prime to Donald Trump. and not politically, and actually they're very different. Like obviously they're not the same guy, but they have a lot of the same things about him in terms of their style. They come in and like the way the media just latches onto these guys, right? And the way that they come in, they're like, I'm doing it my way, firing people, getting rid of those players, bringing in their guys, and the way they go about it, and definitely have a strong brand, and they bring that with them, and definitely polarizing as well, both of them.
It's part of the strategy being talked about every day. It's part of the strategy. So yeah, like I've said that before on my show too. Like they're both a cult personality. They are both people who understand what the headlines and the attention can bring.
Right.
And yeah, obviously two very different, but they utilize the media in somewhat similar ways. And in that fashion, they very much welcome it and try and bring it on.
Yeah. Getting into it with the media, even
Yeah.
both of them. So yeah, some parallels there. But speaking of parallels, so again, we kind of said this at the top of the video, but yeah, BYU kind of different. I mean, Satake and Prime seem like they couldn't be kind of two more different people
Right.
on the outside, but both have spoken very glowingly of each other, and seem to have a lot of respect for each other.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm really excited for this game. I hope that this can be a start of a potential rivalry. It's crazy to have two programs like this relatively close, especially for out west, not really ever playing for so many years, and no rivalry there. And even we play next year at Colorado and don't play again until 27 in Provo. And so so that is a good thing that we get another chance to play each other,
Yes.
because it's kind of sparingly.
Yes, I'm very much looking forward to it. We opened up last year against TCU, and I was really hoping we were going to be able to just play them again this year and kind of build on that. We didn't get that opportunity. But yeah, I think that this can be the birth of something, beautiful. And I want to say, man, I feel like this time coming in, there's just been a lot more of less of that like coach drama. I feel like what we've seen, anything like that, Coach Prime, I'll defend him on this, man. When if there's ever been another coach to kind of make a slight or comments, he wasn't the first one to start it, and I will defend him on that. But like these Big 12 coaches, man, they've been all about business. They've been very respectful, and I think that honestly, like, we have a lot of respect for the Big 12. We're happy to be here. Maybe unlike some other mountainous schools, we love being in the Big 12, and I just got to say, BYU definitely deserved to win the Holy War, man. It was illegal contact, and they also had 90 yards to stop them.
Right.
You guys definitely deserve that win.
Oh man, thank you for that. Well, speaking of rivalries, this is what I was going back and forth. Who is Colorado's main Big 12, more traditional Big 12 rival?
So it was Nebraska, obviously. I would say Kansas State has probably the most legs to it, and I definitely think that's going to continue. I mean,
this year,
yeah, and they poached one of our most promising young players in the portal last year, Dylan Edwards, running back. He had 4 touchdowns against TCU in his true freshman debut. And I guess he had a fantastic game for Kansas State back home tonight. But yeah, so we've had some recruiting wars go on with Kansas State. Now they beat us in our house. That was really hard to stomach. So yeah, outside of that, we're just here to build new rivalries. Hopefully BYU can become one. Texas Tech, they were throwing tortillas on the field at us the whole game. And then we're talking back. We're talking smack. We're celebrating. We're having a lot of fun. I love that type of rowdy environment. Now, I heard once we visit Provo, is it true that we get free ice cream in the visitor section? Is that true? That's what I'm talking about.
Darn right. You got to pay for the Cougar tails, but you get free ice cream. And I mean, just hope you're not playing in November in Provo. Hopefully it's a fall.
They don't switch it up to hot chocolate or something.
I haven't heard that. That would be nice. I think it might still be ice cream. I don't know. So
Man, that's funny, man. But yeah,
Maybe
man.
maybe that's the way you could
Yeah.
like look like you're being nice, but actually, a way to get at them. So, um, anyway, yeah, excellent. Well, I really do look forward to this. The more,
Yes.
like I said, initially I was kind of disappointed because it was a Big 12 game, but the more time's gone on, the more I've like looked about it at this game and the matchup and thought about it, the more hyped I am about it. So I'm really excited. I appreciate you coming on. Why don't you give us a quick plug where everyone can find all your content?
Yes, I do have one quick
Oh,
question for you though, Trevor.
sure.
Clarification. We get the payout from this bowl game, right? Like the Alamo Bowl should be paying us each between like 4 and 4.5 million, or does it just go to the conference? I was under the impression that it went to both schools. So like they split the $9-10 million or whatever between us two. Do you know?
I don't know. So, from what I understand, bowl game money goes all to the conference and then is divided out to all the teams. So it doesn't really matter like if the bowl game your school goes to is pays out more or not, because at the end of the day it all goes into the same pool and then it's divided out. Now it would make sense to me. I wouldn't hate this system if they said, hey, you get a larger percentage of the bowl game you attended or something. So like if you
Yeah.
went to a higher payout bowl game, you earned a playoff or whatever, then you're
Yeah.
going to get a slightly bigger payout, but still dividing the rest of that amongst all the schools. So I don't know, because there should be some reward, because ultimately
Yeah.
if you're not even making a bowl game, I believe you're getting the same payout as like Kansas or Utah that aren't making a bowl game as Arizona State. Now I could be wrong, but I think that's how it is.
Yeah, because man, we got some assistants to pay. Heck, we got some players to pay directly now. Now that 2025 is rolling around, so thank you for that clarification.
Does
But
Pac-12 get some of this payout from Alamo Bowl because it's still a tie-in with the Pac-12?
dude,
I hope not.
I got no idea. That's for
Let us
like
know in the comments if you know the answer to that. I'll go research it.
there's
But
a lot of Big 12 experts, which is great, both on YouTube and in the comments. They can figure this out for us. But Trevor, man, thank you so much for having me on. It's been too long since we connected. I'm glad we can do this. Let's make sure to do it once the regular season rolls around. And yeah, you can find me at DavidTalksBuffs on Twitter. And since BYU, Utah, Broncos. Hopefully, you got a lot of Broncos fans. I do have an NFL channel, strictly Broncos. It's called David Talks Broncos. And I think we're almost around 2,100 subscribers there. So check me out there for the NFL. And yeah, I really do appreciate it, Trevor.
Awesome. And I should have mentioned at the top of the video, you're now officially a member of the College Huddle as well. So be sure,
Yeah.
we'll continue to do these, collaborations across the Big 12 Huddle and all that. So obviously, and I'll have links to all that stuff in the comment or in the description below. So go check him out. A lot of fun. He's got a lot of heated takes. I like to check it out every now and then. It doesn't hold back. So
sometimes I'm serious. Sometimes I'm trolling. I just want to have a good time.
And it always is. So, and this was a great time. So I do appreciate it. Have fun at the game. You'll be attending. So enjoy that. Hopefully not so much at the end, but during the game, I hope you enjoy it and then end on a very sad note.
I understand. Thank you, Trevor.
All right. Well, take care and go Cougs.
Let's go, Buffs.